Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
So welcome to this week's Big Questions. The big question tonight is, if you ran a record label, what would it be called, and what kind of artists or bands would you have on it? Lock screen. And what kind of artists and bands would you turn away? So I have had this idea building for years, and I have pages and pages of ideas. It's called concept records, and every album is a concept, and it could be any band that wants to do one of these concepts. A band could have other record labels they're on and do one for this one. Like some of the ideas I had was like, if a band recorded a song in parts, consecutively, but when you cut it up into tracks, like you single out each part, and when you hit shuffle, you're going to get a different song every time. So you have like verse, chorus, but then like you cut it up in tracks, like on a CD or whatever. I don't want to talk about it too much because somebody's going to take these ideas. Another one would be like the Eras or something, and they would put out an album that's like all music from like the 1910s, like it sounds like it, all the way up into like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And a band that improvises every song live based on recommendations from the audience, like little bits. I got tons of these, but you guys probably don't want to hear many more of them, I'm sure. A band that only plays one key per album. Yes, again, I don't want to give away too many ideas.
What's it called? But concept records?
Yeah, that was just because I figured that's, it's the concept of concepts.
Who would you turn away?
Anybody who wasn't interested in doing it. I figure it's like a thing where it'd be like, if somebody likes any of, like, the ideas could be listed, or they could throw their own concept out there. Yeah, so that was my idea. Rodney, I can tell you have something to say.
No, I like your idea so much. Oh. I really like it. It's I can't believe I blanked on the not Olivia Neutron bomb, but Lana Del Rey's.
Yeah.
The record company she signed to, I just blanked on them. I talk to them all the time, but yeah, that is like something that they would come up with. That is, I love that idea. Yeah, I love those weird, Negative Game Productions might try something like that, or just, I just love that odd sort of like, yes, let's do this. And
like having a band that can either step outside of what they do to like contribute some idea to another label,
Yeah. Or you can mix them, have people from the different bands produce the other bands, or you want to make a compilation. Once a year, you make a compilation album. Each band gives you a song. And again, I think that Negative Gain does that occasionally. Also, Negative Gain also puts out like a newsletter that you get with some of the downloads, and they'll tell you all about the bands and interviews. It's really cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Because I want to hear all about the band that's just playing one song in one key, or you can just limit them. Call this album "Bad Cafe" and just use those letters and for notes. Yeah,
like Cabbage.
The band could be called Bad Cafe, and that's it. That you only get to use those choice of notes. BADCAFE, and that's it. You can maybe flatten them. Maybe they can move the B around.
I actually think I have a similar idea to that in these here. Yeah, because Cabbage was one that I thought of. Like, you write a song, Cabbage, CABBAG, Cabbage. I don't know, however you spell cabbage.
Okay, that sounds cool. I like it.
Thanks.
I sign up. I sign up to do a record.
Yeah, we can take solo artists too.
Yeah. My label I came up with was it's called Mood, MOOD, and I came up with a little logo for it, which we'll see on the screen now. And this label would only sign bands that use, it'll be instrumental, like ambient type records, music bands, or solo artists, doesn't matter, as long as it's instrumental and ambient. But the stipulation is that your band name has to be the name of a drug. So such as we would sign artists called Ativan, Cymbalta, Lyrica, Tramadol, and Xanax would be great band names for the Mood label. But we would not sign metal bands. Metal bands would be signed to our sister label called Doom, and we would be only signing doom metal bands. But again, all those bands would need to be named after drugs. So we would have Brulinta, Cephalexin, Gabapentin, Ozempic, and one of my favorites, Zubsolv. These would all be on the Doom label, and I also
don't forget lithium. That's actually metal.
Well,
Thorazine, the band Thorazine got sued, so they couldn't use the name anymore.
I
So
guess
you're gonna have to spell the name a little differently.
Yeah, I guess these are trademarked names by drug companies.
But if you change it a little,
yeah, you could change them a little. But I did look up. There's an article that I'll link to on the web that explains how these drug companies come up with these wacky names. But
I always wondered that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a formula for it, just like the drug. But anyway, I have the logos for both of those labels, and you can see them on the screen. And I also have the band logos, which you'll be able to see on the screen as well.
Yeah, I know it's amazing. AC/DC were never sued by Con Edison. I think they own those. Let me take a sip and then I'll get to mine. Mine might take a little bit of breath control. So here we go. I'll probably start getting angry. My label would be called Rust Belt Recordings. And our motto would be, because the Rust Belt really needs some love. Everybody focuses on where the hipsters live, but they don't live in the Rust Belt. Our motto is not on vinyl, not on Spotify, not on the radio, not on Colbert. We actually have a moral compass, and you can tell by that, we're not in competition with the majors in the same way that heroin is not in competition with decaf. You can get decaf anywhere, but to get heroin, you got to jump through some hoops to get the hard stuff, and we sell the hard stuff. First, I'll start with who wouldn't I sign? Anybody who was signed to 4AD after 1999, when that company, it's like finding out that somebody owned a baby food company and now they make baby food with ground glass in it. So yeah, once they changed ownership, it went from being one of the greatest companies in the world to a hangout for hipsters. So they're not getting signed. Also, I went over and took a screenshot of who was playing this week at the big club in Philly. Not going to sign any of them. I'm sure they're nice people, but that might be the problem. And I'll get to it. They also have on that site a thing that says, you might also like, and spoiler alert, I might not. No, but that's who I'm not going to sign. But who I am going to sign. I'm first going to sign a band from I'm going to start with just 3 bands, one from each of these genres. The first one is based on something that my younger sister said, which was genius. She said the reason that bands like The National and the 1975 exist is so that soccer moms will have something to listen to when they carpool. So I want to create something that is the opposite of that. I want to bring back what they used to call porn rock, but I'll call it like BDSM rock. I'll call it something that the family can't go see together, because I'm an adult. I want to go see something that is spooky, for lack of a better word. For those of you older folks watching, you might remember a band called Sleep Chamber. Many of you have heard of a band called the Genitorturers, and and let's not forget, you younger folks, of course, love America's favorite leather boy band, Black Bleg. It would be a combination of all of them, and I love. By the way, Black Bleg grew up listening to the Dead Milkmen, so there's that there. I just want to go see something, because everything now all the music is so chaste. It's just a bunch of what looks like 12-year-olds going, I'm almost afraid to hold your hand. And I remember, we used to go see acts that were, you had to wear, it was like when you went to see Gallagher and he'd smash a watermelon, you had to wear a raincoat. That's what I'm talking. I want something that, you need eye protection for the sex show. I want something that will make me blush. And that's what I came up with. The name for this band that would be doing this, it would be our big BDSM, sort of sex porn rock band. And they would actually be musically good. And they would be called Get the Clap and Say Yeah. Like, first of all, if you don't want to ever be pressured to have to play the big club in town that has the hipster bands, be the sort of music they won't invite. They're not going to put Get the Clap and Say Yeah on the bill. It's not going to happen. All right, next type is, I want to go to a genre I love, experimental folk music. Not to be confused with the often problematic neo-folk movement. Experimental folk music, we'll say stuff like Dead Can Dance. A lot of you folks watching know what Dead Can Dance are. When you say experimental folk, everybody says heel-long, and I love heel-long, but it's a lot of the way when you say like industrial, and everybody goes, like 9 Inch Nails, and you're like, yeah, like 9 Inch Nails. But I love heel-long, so we can use heel-long as an example. And of course, there is the new band that I love that's very primitive and very pagan, and that is Hemnedshire. I want to have something like that. I want to have something that you should really only go see it in a field with like bonfires all around, and it's just pagan and driving and spooky. And every episode of the 700 Club would be denouncing it. Like, look what these people are doing. I just want to have something. I want to bring ritual back to rock and roll. There's a great book about how the occult saved rock and roll. And really, it does. And I think that if you bring back ritual and you bring back these sort of powerful, pagan beats and dancing out there with flames going and everything, and maybe you could bring along Get the Clap and Say Yeah. They could be on the same bill. They would look good with the flames going behind. So this band would be called Kyr Ivermith. Which was Kyr Ivermith was the name of a Celtic goddess of dreams. I'll be putting up the logos, by the way, for all these bands, in case you missed that. But if you didn't, you realize it when the logos started appearing. So that is who I would have there. Now, by the way, for these two bands, Get the Clap and Say Yeah and Kyr Ivermith, people start those bands. Just listen to me. Go make those bands. You won't get to be on Colbert and stuff like that, but you'll be good. You'll be happy, and you'll be doing something for society. All right, the final one is, let's bring back death rock. I love death rock. Death rock was so good. I mean, you could say that Rose Garden Funeral Party are pretty much death rock, but there are also a lot of other things. I'm talking about stuff like Christian Death. Remember Christian Death or 45 Grave? Those were great death rock bands. There's a great death rock band out there right now, and they're called Head Cut. And I think they're from LA, and they have that LA death rock sound. They're fantastic. Death rock really needs to come back. We need something scary to scare the crap out of the kids. So I would say the death rock band is going to be called Forgotten Horrors. And I think this is the one you folks really could pull off, because you don't need any special equipment. You don't need the porn stuff. You don't need, flyers and drums and all sorts. No, you can do this, and you can do this with just guitar, bass, and drums, maybe some keys. And you can become Forgotten Horrors, and you can get out there. Again, no one's going to book you, but I'm going to love you, and I'll probably recommend you on this show. So that is my record company, which is Rust Belt Recordings. Again, not Rust Belt Records. We're not interested in selling you vinyl. You don't need vinyl, people. And that would give you more money to buy more of our recordings. Joseph?
My label will be called Zunky Dong. And its primary focus will be instrumental music. But it wouldn't be ambient. I wouldn't be concerned with that. I would be concerned more with tuneful instrumental music. I didn't come up with any band names for my label, but the type of bands that I would look for, or artists, would be like Bloodshot Bill, Manor Astroman, Farquhar Muck and Fuss, I think like Midnight, or soloist, guitar soloist, as long as they played original music, not classical already, probably recorded elsewhere music. It would be, I would turn that down. But if somebody wanted to do original classical guitar solo compositions or other people's non yet recorded compositions, I would put that out if I liked it. So that's what I'd be looking for, and that's what I would release.
What was it? Zonky Dong?
Zonky Dong, because I had 3 other names before that, but they were all, I looked them up and they were all taken. Like first I had Wordless Records. And the tagline would be no pesky lyrics. And then I had Worldless Records, and that was taken too. And then I had Orange Spider, and that was taken. So I just went with Zonky.
Orange Spider is taken already.
Zonky Dong.
Ted Gillette wanted to have a record company called Miami Vice Records because he got paid like $3,000 for appearing on Miami Vice, and he felt bad about it. And he's like, why don't you just take that money and do something good with it? And so he started a record company, and yeah, so that's how the half Japanese record got re-released.
Oh wow.
Well, thanks, guys. Those were all really cool answers.
Some of them were frightening.
Maybe we'll actually do some of these.
Yeah. We should have a whole thing where we just pretend to be these bands.
I did think of another one that would be every kind of genre of music, but it's the same band putting out like a compilation album. Like they could have different names, but it would be the same members. So that would be cool.
Isn't that kind of like what the assembly line stuff that they did with like the Archies and all that stuff?
Oh, is that all like the same? Or it's kind of like the idea of like the Wrecking Crew, I guess.
Yeah. There'd be like a house band, and they would just like churn out music for different.
Yeah, but you could have them doing like a death metal song and then like a folk song.
I just want to have one band from each genre. Like I want to expand it. Like go through first and do, the BDSM and the the death rock and the pagan music, and then start adding people. Add like an EBM band, add like a no wave band, and just keep a rap band, and just keep like one of each. You call it one of each record, or Miami Vice records. Either one is good.
I don't know, guys. It might be a song challenge for sometime this year.
Yeah. We haven't done
but
that.
No indie rock. I'm not hiring any of you folks.
Corporate rock all the way.
Indie rock is corporate rock. I don't know how to tell you that.
That's why it's not called independent. Indie is its own word.
No, it's indie because it's indistinguishable from everything else.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to recommendations. I would recommend you start a record label because seriously, I can't even think of any. Rodney has a whole list of record label he knows. I don't. Start a record label that's catered to my tastes. That's my recommendation. You can start Concept Records if you like the idea, whoever you are. But we have documentation that I had the idea here.
I would like to recommend a website. I don't think I recommended this before, but if I did, who cares? Because I'm recommending it again if I did. It's a website called Asteroid Launcher. I don't know if any of you have tried this out or not. We'll provide the link to it, of course. Basically, somebody took scientific data about what would happen if a meteor of various sizes hit the Earth and what kinds of destructive power they would wreak upon the Earth. And so what you do is you have a map view, and you can move around the world, and you can zoom in and zoom out, and you can pick a spot with your cursor, and then you can click on it and launch a meteor you have different settings on the side that you could say, you know, it's this big and traveling at this speed, and at this angle. And then it'll hit the earth and it'll do a graphic representation of what happens when it hits the earth. And then all kinds of stats will be available for you down the right-hand side. So, you know, you could pick a spot on the world map, say somewhere on the east coast of Florida, and then you launch your meteor, and then the site will show you destructive effects broken down into categories such as people killed, crater size, fireball size, shockwave, wind speeds created, and earthquake magnitude. And you can just go around the world launching meteors at
This
any
is the
place you want.
greatest thing I've ever heard.
That meteor can't get here soon enough.
I'm putting it right smack in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
And nobody's going to watch any more of this video. They're just going to go right there.
Have fun with
check the stats and we'll see where it stopped. Okay, well, my recommendation is, I got a bunch of stuff here. First, I'm actually going to recommend, in honor of tonight's topic, a record company. It's called the Tripalium Corp. Tripalium Corp, or Tripalium Corp for short. Corporation is probably the full name, but they call themselves the Tripalium Corp. These are the people responsible for Perfect Nails for Satan, the song that has been in many of your heads all year long, and you probably just got it out, and now you're like, thank you, Rodney, for slipping that back in. Then you slip it right in. But the Tripalium Corp, Perfect Nails for Satan is an incredible song. It's the combination of Starving Insect and Crystal Geometry, and that's part of their Acid Avenger series. I should point out, I can't figure out what the frig is going on at this company. Then there is my new favorite song title, and one of my new favorite songs. It's called Hold Me, You Bastard. And it's by Oliver Avalus and Analog Devices, and that's part of their Rave series. It is the weirdest goddamn company I have ever seen. So Tripalium Corp, congratulations for being a great record company, because you're certainly interesting. And I have been unable to I keep sending around Perfect Nails for Satan to people just because why should I just have it stuck in my head? Up next, a recommendation. My dear friend Orlee Stewart, who is a witch, had to recently leave Instagram. Because somebody was pretending to be her. Actually, several people were pretending to be her. It may have been part of some sort of catfishing scam. It may have been a part to make money because people will send her money for her witchy stuff. Either way, she's off of there. And that is costing her, I imagine, money and some other things. So what happens is Orlee had, another project I have did a cover of Jamie's Cryin by Van Halen, and Orlee did a invocation to the goddess Lilith in it, which is the only way to save Jamie's Cryin. So I think Orlee's a super nice person. I will give you the link to her YouTube channel, and if you just go there and just subscribe, that'd be great. I would appreciate that. And then finally, Dog Zone 9000. Yeah, can you feel that nitrate power? You're in the dog zone for an hour. This is Sean Baby, the mighty Sean Baby and Brockway. And the last two episodes of this podcast have been pure comedy gold. I was in the office last Thursday, and I was like trying not to laugh where people could hear me. That was Bigfoot Shootout, that episode. And that was with the mighty Drew Toothpaste, who some of you know from many of his efforts, including being the compressor. And also his wife, Natalie D. They were both on there. And the topic was books about shootouts with Bigfoot. And it was amazing. At one point, this one hillbilly family realizes that these Bigfoots are out of gun range, so they went and got more guns. It doesn't make sense to me either. Also, the guy who fought the 8 men of St. Helens is really so good. It's just, and it's hilarious all the way through as they just kneecap this author. And then the other thing that they did, which was this week, which was the Power Team album. The Power Team was apparently a Christian weightlifting team from like the 80s or 90s that would go around the schools and give motivational speeches. Well, they put out an album, and they had Todd in the Shadows, who we've mentioned a few times on this show. He actually came on along with them and reviewed them. So you haven't lived until you've heard these two episodes. So that's Dog Zone 9000. So check it out, and I guarantee if you liked last week's recommendation for the Palmer, what do we call that? Palmer Trolls. Yes, that's what it was, Palmer Trolls. Then I guarantee you'll laugh your ass off at these. All right, thank you.
I recommend a book called Corporate Rock Sucks, The Rise and Fall of SST Records. SST Records was a record company that put out, they still exist actually, but not like they did in their heyday. It's an interesting history of the label. They actually, the label that put out Black Flag, and they're owned by the founder of Black Flag, Greg Ginn. Interestingly, he started this as a mail order electronics company, and SST stood for Solid State Tuner, and it was modified World War II radio equipment that Greg Ginn modified in his garage and sold as ham radio equipment. Supposedly, that's became the SST Records only when he wanted to put out his 7-inch for his band, and it morphed into SST Records gradually. But it's an interesting story, especially if you're interested in punk rock history and stuff like that, and record history.
Many people don't know that this band started out as an electronics company, and we were originally known as STP, which stood for soiled toilet paper. And it didn't work, and we said, what else can we do? A band, that's what we'll be. Some people did want to buy the soiled toilet. This is before the internet. You couldn't make a lot of money, stuff like that before the internet.
Well, thanks, guys. That was fun.
Yep. Dean has to explain to us off camera next week's.
And aside.
Go away, people. Go away.
Plug your ears.